Hey everyone, I'm sorry it took so long for me to get these done. Reading a trilogy takes a long time, and these books, these three, it would not be worth it to do 3 separate videos. After what I did with the Force Heretic trilogy a year ago, no way am I going to do that again. Because, so considering I have an intro now, and each video would be like 2 or 3 minutes long, so I'm going to cover the Darkness trilogy. This was released after Revenge of the Sith, so writers of the expanded universe had more freedom to expand the universe. There's a subplot I'm going to talk about here, which involves Padme Amidala, which Luke finally learns the truth. And that's not the whole plot of the story, but it opened that up. So we get to learn more about, there's some things that we see from Revenge of the Sith that we didn't get to see in the movie. But this is essentially, we get to see Luke's reaction to those events. And it explains why R2-D2 did not reveal, who his mother was. Now, this, I think, would have been a great story for another book. Unfortunately, the Black Free Crisis already did that kind of story, so the main story for this is actually a conflict between I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this alien race right, the Kuroks and the Chiss. This is the first in the trilogy, the Joiner King. Joiners are people that have been around the Kuroks for an extended period of time, and a familiar face if you read the Young Jedi Knight series, and you remember one of the Jedi Knights that was kidnapped and that was on the ship in Star by Star. Well, Rainer actually is in this, which I was actually surprised. I didn't expect him to return in here. Basically, the Kuroks are a race that existed on Alderaan 25,000 years ago, and they're basically a collective hive mind. And Jaina, along with Zach, are the ones that stay with them the longest. Of course, all of them basically become joiners, though nowhere near as bad as Rhinor. Of course, 2 of the Dark Jedi that basically betrayed Anakin Solo in Star by Star lived. Now, the first book in the series is kind of slow, to be honest. I don't think it's as interesting as the other 2, but I enjoyed it. And this is the first time we actually witness what the Yuuzhan Vong War has done to, Han, Luke, and Leia. Some people criticize the later parts of the EU for the original trio for being completely out of character compared with what they are in the original trilogy. Considering the fact that at this point in the timeline, they're like in their 50s, Han Solo in his 60s, they've seen a lot of shit, lost a son, lost a lot of friends, seen an entire civilization that they helped build destroyed. And yeah, their outlook on life would be your life outlook would be completely different if that had happened. Of course, if you got this in paperback, it comes with a short story, which I'm going to talk about in another video, along with the Boba Fett short story, which involves the New Jedi Order series. It's a story that was published, in this book, but it was other than Destiny's Way. Now, the first book ends with the Darkness supposedly being defeated, and they relocate to planetoid systems that were originally for the Itadorians. This basically, which I'm going to talk about this towards the end. Of course, the end of the first book, Leia finally decides to commit to become a Jedi Knight, and the second book, The Unseen Queen, takes place a few months after that. At this book, this deals with another story, with at least another subplot, with Luke having doubts, about Mora, because a certain Twi'lek, I'm not going to mention her by name, planted doubts in his mind about Mora, who is not who he thinks she was. Because at this point, Luke did not know about the fate of his mother. He only saw small glimpses. And that's the thing that made me read this trilogy. I wanted to know Luke's reaction towards that. You don't get that much of it in this book, but you learn about the original designer for those astromech droids, and so yeah, of course it was revealed that Mora had a hand in killing one of the original designers. This is when you actually start seeing a glimpse of what Leia is as a Jedi, and this one is good, not as, again, this trilogy is not bad, but I don't think it's kind of a step down compared to New Jedi Order. But then again, I don't think you could really top that series. This is probably the best in the trilogy. This is my favorite one, because a lot of stuff I was waiting to happen did. Swarm War. This is when Luke Skywalker finally takes on the role of Grand Master of the Jedi Order and basically demands anyone that isn't fully committed to being involved in the Jedi Order to leave. And, of course, certain characters, Denali Kui made her last appearance in here. Jason did some questionable things in this book. Of course, he does the same in the second one. But I'll get to that after I'm done talking about this one. The Swarm War concludes the subplots of the first two books regarding, Luke's mother and what happened to her, and Luke letting go of his, fear. Of course, this book has some pretty awesome moments with Leia. I will admit that, and Luke. The action scenes towards the end of this was pretty entertaining. But like that Twi'lek, I was waiting for her to die. I don't remember her name at the moment, but I was so happy when she died. Oh my god, it's one of my most satisfying deaths in the EU. I never liked that character, which I'm glad she freaking died. The end of this book made me hungry for more. And I'm sorry, I'll get to the end of this. Even though Outbound Flight may have won, I'm going to review this next because I'm more interested in reading this than that. Don't worry, Outbound Flight will get its time. It's on my list, but I so badly wanted to know what happened after this. Now, I'm going to talk about the things in the trilogy as a whole that I liked and didn't like. The stuff that I didn't like about the trilogy is, well, I think that the thing with the joiners was weird, and the storyline kind of felt like something from VR Troopers at times. And I felt like the books focused way too much on the original trio and not enough on, Jason and Jaina. Don't get me wrong, I love Luke, Han, and Leia, but I wanted to read more about Jason and Jaina and the next generation of Jedi Knights. And I felt like this was going back to focusing on those characters, because the New Jedi Order, they weren't the main characters, they were side characters. And I wasn't too big of a fan of the Zach and Jaina thing. I think Jag and Jaina seems to be more legitimate as a couple. And I felt like breaking them up off screen was just there for the sake of drama. I felt like it could have been a little bit shorter, especially the first one, because the first one was slow for me. The thing with Padme, I felt like the reveal was underwhelming because I would have loved to see more. To see the characters. This is why I feel like the Padme story should have been its own book in itself. Because I wanted it to know, to have Luke, Leia meet their other family that they never knew existed. They have a good story there. Like they could have used this as an opportunity to introduce Naboo and the Gundams at this point in the timeline, but they didn't do that, unfortunately. I just felt it was a missed opportunity. I would have really loved to see more of Jason, of what he did in his 5 years, but I guess I'll learn more in Betrayal. Now, that's all the negatives, because I want to get that out of the way. Now let's talk about the positives. Leia becoming a Jedi was awesome. One of my favorite moments of the entire expanded universe was when she basically stood up to a Chiss interrogator and didn't fuck around. Not to mention her lightsaber duel with that certain Twi'lek was awesome. It more than made up for the lack of Jedi Leia action earlier in the expanded universe. And not to mention her master, considering, if you've read the New Jedi Order series, to see her arc, to have her go from someone that struggled, with her, because, her species, are predators. And to see that, her as a master was really interesting. I really like that. I really enjoyed the family moments in this book, what little there was in there. I really wish there was more because, after this book, I assumed everything goes to hell with the Solos and the Skywalkers. And I wanted to see more. Of Ben with his relationship with his aunt and uncle and his cousins, Jason and Jaina. Oh, well. Other things that I liked. I liked the fact that it showed, how much, the war changed the characters. One thing that always frustrated me about when I read certain, series is how the war doesn't really affect the characters' growth, and it does. I also enjoyed, the Kyrix were an interesting concept, even though I'm not a big fan of them. I thought, the final battles towards the end of the book was really awesome. And I really liked the idea that it showed, because one thing that kind of bothered me about the New Jedi Order series, I still love it, was Virgier's philosophy. And we didn't really get to... I wanted to see... Because we didn't really see anyone even talk about her philosophy, her beliefs in the Force. And this book, we actually do, because we get to show Luke Skywalker, because Jason tries to manipulate Luke into, embracing Virgier's teachings in this book, but Luke wouldn't have it. Luke stayed true to his principles, and this goes to show you the real Luke Skywalker, not the coward you see in The Force Awakens, would never run away. It would never, not help his friends. He could have killed Rey Rhinor. He could have killed him. But he didn't. Luke actually went the high road and actually saved him. And not to mention, a good thing about this book series, I feel like they utilize all the characters well. Even though I do wish they would have, had more of the next generation, it was still cool to see Luke. Now, what do I give this series? The Dark Nest trilogy isn't my favorite. I don't dislike it at all. It has its moments that I thought was pretty cool. But I really wanted to actually read this. It does feel like it's kind of, filler. to bridge the gap between Legacy of the Force and New Jedi Order. Of course, one more thing I got to address because I don't want to bring it up in a future video regarding Legacy of the Force. This also foreshadows the events that are going to happen in the Legacy of the Force series. Because this is the first time you see Jason abusing his power. You see Jason actually kind of acting kind of self-righteous. But then again, some people could argue that Jason is kind of misunderstood. I don't know. But it makes sense that Jason is going to fall to the dark side, but considering his actions in here, considering the former Queen Mother, the steps that he took to protect his daughter, even though it was necessary, but I felt like this is what started his path to the end. The ends justifies the means. He even instigates a war between the Chiss and the Krarks. And I do feel like this makes Jason, in a way, arrogant. And in a way, it shows a parallel between him and Anakin Skywalker. And that's probably my interpretation of the events of this trilogy. I can tell you this. This is not a good ending point if you don't want to read it at a certain point in the expanded universe. It is a step down from, New Jedi Order, but I do recommend these if you want to, read something in between this. Believe me, you're not going to want to skip straight to this because there's some stuff you're going to miss out on. So, I give these I give them decent. I don't think they're the best series of books in the expanded universe or the best trilogy, but I do find them entertaining. And it made me psyched to read, the Legacy of the Force series, which is something I intended to do much later. Don't get me wrong, guys. I'm still going to focus primarily on the prequels. Don't be surprised if I read one book here and one book there of this. Because with Episode 8 fastly approaching, I want to be reminded what real Star Wars is about. That totally isn't basically giving the finger to the new canon. But this is my show. Matt Wilkins does it in subtle ways as well. Anyway, guys, may the Force be with you. And next time, I'm going to review Betrayal or Outbound Flight. Whatever one I finish reading first. Have a good day. And may we live long and prosper. Peace.